Hello, everyone. Welcome to Miss Valley Entertainment News. My name is Dread, and welcome to a reaction to a video by Mr. Maddie Plays. Mr. Maddie is tackling the subject of Star Wars Outlaws Made Me Angry, a review. I have not really watched more than a couple of minutes of this. It's a little bit longer video, but we're going to jump right into it, and I'll give my reactions to what Mr. Maddie has to say about Star Wars Outlaws. Let's go.
Salutations, everybody. It is Maddie here today, and some videos are just therapeutic. This is one of them. As a diehard Star Wars fan, I was very excited for Star Wars Outlaws, but this game, I don't know how else to put it, just made me so mad because I play games like Star Wars Jedi Survivor amidst all of the crap going on with Star Wars. Like, I got 5 episodes deep into the Acolyte and tapped out. I play this game and I'm like, I get why people hate Star Wars, but I look at something like Jedi Survivor and go, yeah, that's the good stuff. I love KOTOR. That's the good stuff. Like, when Star Wars is on point, there's nothing better to me. I love Star Wars unapologetically. So when it was announced that Ubisoft Massive, the developers behind the Division games, would be working on an open world Star Wars game, I was excited because to me, at the bare minimum, I get an acceptable Ubisoft templated open world, and that was perfectly fine with me because I just like to exist in this universe. Well, I didn't really even get that. I have a lot to say about this one, but I'm frustrated. As a passionate fan of the Star Wars franchise, I'm going to come across probably more harsh than other reviewers, but this game, from a design level, with its choices on gameplay, particularly the stealth aspect of the gameplay, just bugged me so much. The polish level here is unacceptable, from visuals to bugs.
Now, I know games are fantasy, but some people look for some aspects of realism to them. And I guess then the question would be, how many women can knock out men with one punch to the jaw? I'm not saying it can't happen, but if your character continually does that, your character is a crack shot, your character can beat up men. I mean, clearly it's a fantasy, right? But if you're looking for realism, that's not realistic. That doesn't happen in real life very often. I'm just saying. Does it matter? No, but just a comment.
This game is all over the place. And during the final mission, like, my quest froze twice and I had to quit to the dashboard and redo massive parts of the game. This happened over and over. And last but certainly not least, a lot of mechanics for the game that I was hoping were going to deliver and elevate the experience, like the reputation system or space exploration, things I'm really excited about, did not deliver for me personally at all. So I have a lot to say, ladies and gentlemen. Shout out to Ubisoft for the review code. If you're new here and you're into day one reviews, you're in the right place. Consider subscribing. Let's start off at the top with what I think is one of the most vicious gameplay cycles I've gone through. This was a long 20+ hour adventure for me, y'all. And that's including side content, beating the main story. There is a lot more content beyond that if you are interested in what you're seeing, so just keep that in mind. But that's about what it took for me to roll credits on this game. But this stealth gameplay, I talked about it in my preview, but it just does not let up at all. So here is your gameplay flow in Star Wars Outlaws. They're going to send you somewhere where you have to be quiet. It'll tell you in your objectives, don't get caught. And they're serious about that, because if you get caught, you get sent back to a checkpoint. If the alarm goes off, you get sent back to a checkpoint. I'm talking like early 2000s level gameplay design. Like, you get caught, that's it, you're going back. And many times you'll get sent very far back, and having to redo the same missions over and over and over was annoying. Now, this would be fine if the game was built for stealth gameplay. You'd think, with it being such a prevalent feature, that this would be a primary stealth game. All you have really at your disposal, though, is a takedown that's only done when you're really close to the enemy, a stun shot, a single stun shot, might I add, that takes a long time to recharge, like upwards of a minute, and then you can use Nyx, your little pet, to attack enemies or distract them, and that can be a little bit fun, but again, these are all single takedowns. The idea here...
I mean, I see her punching all these people out. Is she like friggin' She-Hulk? Does she like hit the weight room like 37 hours a day, 15 days a week? And she's so massive and muscular that she could just one punch people in the jaw and knock them all out all through this game for 20 hours? Oh, it's overpowered K. I'll just stop commenting on that. We'll just move on.
Clearly is that Kay Vess is a scoundrel. She's not a soldier. We're not going to equip her with much, but this girl's missing every tool and gadget required to make this a competent stealth experience. What I'm talking about is not optional. So it's not even like, oh, Maddie, just go guns blazing, dude. Who cares if the stealth sucks then? You can't. Okay, so I have to play stealth, and none of the mechanics support it properly because they're all bad. And this is not just a main story thing. Even in the side content,
you have to play stealth. You're forced to, and the game mechanics don't even friggin' support it. Ooh. Honest to God, I wasn't expecting this. I had not heard this before. I already had major misgivings about this game, but here's what I predict. I predict a lot of people went and pre-ordered this. Far too many. And I predict a lot of those people, plus some others that are just really big Star Wars fans, still, are going to give this game glowing reviews and say it's great. It's going to be like those people who bought and played Starfield and loved it. And still love it and still play it. I think it's still think it's game of the year and still think Todd Howard's ass should be kissed by everybody. And you know what I'm saying? Like, it's going to be like those people. There's going to be some people who are so freaking gaga over this game because they spent their entire gaming budget for the year on this game. It's those 12-year-olds who get online and pretend they're 40. It's those people. And they're going to be very, very loud and very, very vocal and get into lots of bad arguments with people on the internet. Whereas the vast majority of people are going to be like, I'm not touching this game. It looks like crap. Or I touched this game. I really wish I hadn't. It was shit. Because this is not good. What I'm hearing is not good.
Then I played. Sometimes they're like, hey, you want to go get this vault? Okay, you have to stealth back into this section owned by the Pike Syndicate. And if you get caught, you get sent all the way back. It totally devalues the actual content in the game because none of it is appealing, since I know I'm going to get checkpointed 40 times before I get to just one place I want to get to. And in some cases, it's not worth it. Like, I got to that vault I'm talking about. Oh, I need to find key cards, so I have to go around the world, find key cards, and then stealth back in again. Yeah, it's just so frustrating. And even when the guns fly, I think the game doesn't let you play it properly. What you're equipped with is Kay's moddable blaster pistol. So she has 3 different shot types. You have plasma, ion, and charge, each doing different things with the environment and on enemies. A charge shot is much more radial, targeting multiple enemies at once. Your ion is good for droids as well as activating machinery in the world. And then your plasma is like your standard damage, and you can change that for like a single shot or a rapid shot, and that's really it. Otherwise, you have weapon pickups. Think of these like power weapons in something like Gears or Halo, your E11s, your snipers, and so on and so forth. That's how you get the strongest weapons, but they're extremely limited.
So shit other people drop that you can pick up or that you find laying on a table somewhere, whatever, you grab and use. And if I'm correct, it's going to say something about the fact you can only use it for a short while. It doesn't allow you to take it with you.
On ammunition. And again, I know where your head's going. Well, Maddie, if the pistol sucks, then why don't you just rock with these weapons? Anytime you press the right thumbstick to interact with anything, you drop it right away. You go to slide between a wall to load it in the next level, you drop your weapon. So you're always left with just this pistol. So when all the blasters are firing, let's say I get killed in the middle of this, because the checkpoint system in this game is so awful, I'll load back in, and if let's say I had an E11 in my hand that I got from the room before leading into this encounter, I won't have it anymore. And I can't.
Wow. Oh my God, who designed this game? Who designed this crap? Seems like they do an awful lot to make you keep playing the game. Well, we're going to switch it back over here. Try it again. Get you back over here. Try it again. We're going to take away your weapon. Try it again. They just want you to play more hours in the game to get through it. If it took Mr. Maddie 20 hours to get through the main story of the main story of the game is probably 10 hours without all that, or less. Think about that. This game is a sham. It's a scam, dude. It's a scam. It's an absolute scam.
Can't go back to go grab it. So now I'm stuck with this awful pistol. It is blowing my mind that I'm playing a game here that has so much stealth gameplay, but the combat design philosophies of a Halo game. I don't know how that exactly happens. That rigid gameplay structure irked me from start to finish, whether it be the side content or the main story. The game feels incredibly unaware of its biggest pitfalls and does literally nothing to avoid them. There is very little diversity in this gameplay experience, and worse yet, the AI may be some of the worst I've witnessed in a long while. I'll let the gameplay do the talking.
What the hell is even going on here? Wow.
This is not a one-time thing. There was a moment where I had just enemies sprinting at me up a ladder, and that was the only way they were navigating toward me. That
is unbelievably bad. You notice the guy on the speeder, which was just hovering up the air and not doing anything, by the way, firing his laser pistol with nothing coming out of the barrel at all. No flashes, no nothing. It's not that this game is unfinished, but it looks like it's unfinished. But this game was poorly designed. I don't even have words to describe what this is. It's like a game that's not even a game being marketed as a game. This is an absolute scam. This is how many stupid Star Wars fans can we trick into buying this game that we put minimal effort into? This looks like one of those crappy one developer survival games that comes out on Steam for $5. It's got that kind of quality and quantity to it. That kind of quality to what you're actually getting. It's just crap.
So many problems with the AI here. It breaks constantly. So that's why you're able to get through a lot of these combat scenarios, because you have this weak pistol, but the AI doesn't really shoot at you. So you're kind of good to just chill out and open fire. It's just...
wow.
Oh, perhaps the most disappointing aspect for me, though, is the game's space exploration. If you are a avid Mr. Matty viewer, will say, you probably heard me numerous times say, since the announcement of Star Wars Outlaws, that I know even with Starfield space exploration not delivering, that like Ubisoft should be able to hit the nail on the head. They had the seamless transition from the planet to space, which reminded me a lot of like the old Battlefront games. I thought that was so cool when they did that. That's something that No Man's Sky does. I was like, all right, cool. So we have the transition there. And then Ubisoft, they just know how to put content in an open space. Like certainly that'll be a fun thing to do, right? Well, 99.9% of the content you'll find in space is just gathering treasure in the nebula. So you'll be just like flying around, use your scanner, loot like 3 chests just floating out in space and move on. That's your space exploration. Mass Effect, I never took you for granted, but I promise for sure I never will, because it feels like between Starfield and Star Wars Outlaws, I am so wounded and cannot comprehend how we have not gotten a great space exploration experience in so long. But it upsets me greatly, because this was one of the things I was most excited about. This is the thing I kind of dreamt of. Like when I thought of open world Star Wars, it's like, yes, like getting off the planet and then being able to see this big open space and landing on derelict spaceships and trying to figure out what happened there. Like it's almost like too good to be true if that actually did happen. So I'm left feeling just so robbed of what could have been an absolutely great experience in exchange for literally just grabbing materials. That's all there is, man. It's, oh my God. Also not it is the character models and facial animations. I'm going to let the game speak for itself once more. Take a look.
Yeah, he wouldn't, but he told me you could mod my speeder.
Yeah. Yeah, of course. I've got every part you could want. I mean, mag fins, aftermarket sensors, booster coils.
How about a hydro repulsor?
Oh.
What is wrong with her face?
No.
You just said every part I could want.
I mean, I could slap the repulsor on there now. That's no problem, but without some good Durasteel struts, it'd shake loose in a day or two.
I don't think it's an exaggeration at all to say that there are moments in this game that are Mass Effect Andromeda level bad in the terms of facial motion capture. It's really sometimes bad to look at. It's distracting. Fortunately, the environments are great, but anytime the game pulls up to its characters, it is so tough to watch because they're so lifeless. And what's frustrating is I really do like how Kay Vess looks, the way she's outfitted, her hair. She perfectly fits the 70s and 80s Star Wars vibe. And I feel like they just missed an opportunity here to give some extra details, because there are moments where you'll see really fully rendered cinematic cutscenes where you get all those details. And I think everyone looks great. I don't expect it to be at that level every time, but man, when you look at this game, there are certain moments it's just ugly, and that's so sad to say, because I feel like Ubisoft's best strength is creating just these great looking worlds, and that doesn't really feel like it's here. Keep in mind, this is based on my experience playing the game in performance mode on PS5. I did try quality mode out a little bit. There was a little bit of a difference in the texture quality, but nothing so major that I was like, oh yeah, that's it right there. Unfortunately, the reputation system is also a bust. So there are four different syndicates that you can influence based on jobs you take and choices you make throughout the story and side quests. Depending on your reputation level with them, you can unlock different outfits, weapons, easily access territory owned by that gang, and also access their unique vendors and contracts. I was actually extremely excited by the premise of this. You may remember me talking about this in my preview, because I was thinking of how the game could not only create different levels of choice and consequence, but unlock unique gameplay opportunities.
Of course it's not going to.
Sadly, this system is ridiculously easy to manipulate to the point where I wondered why it existed at all. A reputation system, to me at least, should have a sense of weight. Like, you made that side mad. This side likes you, though. Here are the benefits of that. Not a system that goes, hey, you pissed this side off, but they're going to appear in a story cutscene and ask for your help and be totally friendly with you. Okay, Maddie, well, there's no choice and consequence in this game, so get over it. Okay, fine. Well, how about the fact that I can just run a couple of contracts for these syndicates and all of a sudden they love me again? I know it's not like Ubisoft to make a game where you have deep choice and consequence and you can miss out on content. I'm not looking at them like they're Obsidian. I very much am aware of what kind of games Ubisoft makes, but look, when your systems are inviting in that level of thinking and presenting that, like there are moments in the story, they're like, make a choice. You're going to lower your reputation here and raise it over here. It is clearly drawn out for you what this system can do. It's just never fully taken advantage of. So what this does is definitely takes away some weight from the main story on choices you can make. I wasn't really thinking about any of them, and I wasn't concerned what any of these factions thought of me, because I knew I'd be able to win them back in like 30 minutes. So who cared? I only got a couple more complaints for y'all. I know it's been a lot, but this is therapeutic for me, all right? Because look, like, there was this lockpicking mini game here. Thank God there's an accessibility option, so I'll give this one a pass. But it's a rhythm-based lockpicking game, and this is the Starfield digipick system all over again. You know, in Starfield, you'd go 10 steps, you digipick something, and then you go another 10 steps, you digipick something. You're doing it over and over, and it's just a time-consuming mini game. And I look at Skyrim, and I'm like, we figured this out like over a decade ago. Let's just lean into that. Well, Star Wars Outlaws is the latest to try to reinvent the mini game for lockpicking. I'm looking at you, Kingdom Come Deliverance, as well. We keep trying to reinvent this thing that I think Skyrim figured out perfectly. Oblivion also kind of figured out. That was another fun way of doing it. But I look at this here where you had to like match the beat when you were lockpicking, and it just got annoying fast.
Terrible.
Not because of the mini game itself.
Terrible.
It was cute at first, but man, when it hits you with like 3 locks in 30 seconds, yeah, I immediately went to the accessibility options and made it where I turned off the rhythm game, and you just mash R2 in my case and just fly right through those lockpicks. And it definitely improved the flow of the game, because otherwise this is a content pacing killer.
So in order to improve the flow of the game, you turn off some of the features in the game because they don't work anyways. They just work to annoy you. Wow.
story pacing killer through and through. There are some navigation woes here. I feel like Ubisoft is taking the wrong lessons from feedback that's been given to them, right? Everyone talks about how they make checklist open worlds, their maps are vomited with icons, you can just stare at the mini map and it'll bring you to your next location and you don't really have to pay attention to anything else around you. So here in Star Wars Outlaws, what they decided to do was create radiuses that just tell you like, hey, your objective's in this general area, and then you're kind of left wandering for a long time trying to figure things out. I noticed this was also the case in Avatar Frontiers of Pandora, and I just didn't like it in that either. Like, I think Ubisoft is looking at that feedback and going, oh man, like we got to change this, so just get rid of it outright. But I think there are better ways to respond to said feedback. Yeah. I'm a little more forgiving of this because I can see they're trying to adjust to what people are saying online, but I think they need to go back to the drawing board on how they lay out their worlds and how the player gets to that content.
So as terrible as I thought this game was going to be, the more I listened to this, the more I realize I did not even know a tenth of how terrible this game is. Is anybody listening to this and getting good vibes about this game off of this? Now, I know that's just Mr. Maddie's opinion, but he's also coming into this, like he said, as a Star Wars fan. And I think he wanted this game to be really good. Great experience.
They need some sort of more direct guide because a lot of these city spaces, for example, are dense. And so I'll go into a radius and I'll have to overhear like one very specific conversation among a pocket of people. And so I'll have to look for like an interact icon somewhere. And like, yeah, it just kind of collapses upon itself because I think it's trying to be so seamless that it is at times difficult to find the actual content you're looking for, and it kind of kills that content pacing. Again, I'm a little more forgiving of it because I can see they're trying to adjust. I just think they need to go back to the drawing board on this. Yeah, let's talk about the story. This is set between episodes 5 and 6. Your main character is Kay Vess. She's a scoundrel with a backstory that kind of leaves her effectively orphaned, so to speak, and she runs a heist, she gets caught, she has a death mark on her, and a lot of this story is about assembling a new heist crew to run a big heist that's going to remove said death mark, and everyone's going to get rich from it. It starts off pretty slow and honestly linear for a long while. I'm talking upwards of like 2-ish hours. Now, with all of these syndicates, I thought there was a great opportunity for Ubisoft to tell a story about the dark underworld of Star Wars, but unfortunately, this just results in another Rebel Empire coded story. At first, I thought their usage of the war between these two was actually a really good backdrop as they were kind of flowing between these moments that were happening in the movies and in the lore that we're very familiar with. But eventually, you can practically feel this game forcing the point during one stretch of making this another Rebel storyline. I share a personal frustration with this that maybe you won't care about, but I'm looking for a new Star Wars as someone who's like reading the High Republic books and wants to see the Old Republic make a comeback when Disney gets their act together, might I add. You know, I look at things like that versus what Star Wars does nowadays, where they're just, for example, bringing Luke Skywalker back constantly, or the fact that Star Wars is very tropey. Once they find one success, they can't just let it be that success. Like Mandalorian Grogu works great together, but now you have like, you know, Cal Kestis and BD1, and you have Kay Vess and Nix. It's like, we can have different things and not include these stories that we've heard for what, like 40, 50 years. Like it's time to move things along here and try some new things. So it just lacks weight in the story department, where that was one of the most exciting things. Like, as someone who grew up on Star Wars Bounty Hunter, I was excited to again get to that criminal underworld here in the Star Wars universe, where I think of the canceled Star Wars 1313 and the potential there to explore that avenue. It is a very syndicate focused storyline, but I think the Rebel and Empire business just takes away so much from what this story could have accomplished. All in all, though, I can say ND5 is the man. This is a great character. One of my favorites in a Ubisoft game. There are some particular moments toward the end of the game that I really enjoyed with him. Like, he's a good character. Also, this game was a lot shorter than I anticipated, which I don't think is a bad thing, by the way. If Ubisoft's responding to anything properly, it's the bloat in their games.
So $100 for a really short game and a really bad game. Oh, and they want you to buy the season pass, of course, too. My God.
In my opinion, at
least.
Who's
buying this?
Star Wars Outlaws
Who's buying
like
this?
15 hours for me to beat. And that was like dropping out, smelling the roses, taking breaks. You know, I beat this game pretty quickly because you may or may not remember, I was just in LA. I got my review code earlier that week while I was already in LA. So I came home and started this review process pretty late. And I was thinking like, I might have to just do impressions. I don't think I'm going to beat this in time, but I pretty much cruised through this game and just beat it with ample time. So yeah, I would say at the worst, you'll find a Star Wars story here that is not going to wow you in any original ways, and at best you might be kind of entertained, which is cool. I think honestly the story is the least thing I have a problem with. It's just overly familiar, which is why it's kind of at this point in the video. There is another thing I do enjoy about this game, and it is the environments at times. Like the worlds in Star Wars Outlaws can sing. There's just a positive in being here. The snowfall of Kijimi, the rain of Akiva really go a long way in creating a feel here. And Ubisoft on top of this has done a wonderful job with the score for Outlaws, mixing in popular Star Wars motifs with their own little spin on the soundtrack for something that really stands out in a positive way. It felt original yet iconic, and I honestly couldn't have asked for anything better for this game. And another positive I'll throw out here is Nix himself. This little guy is adorable. There are these street food moments that you can have alongside him where you eat together, and this leads to some real wholesome exchanges that made me hug my dog afterwards. It was so cute. But what is there to do in Star Wars Outlaws, you may be wondering? So what you have are syndicate quests, side quests, you can track down intel, there's completing contracts, you can track down experts to unlock new abilities or perks, you can spend resources that you collect throughout all of this content on upgrades, you can also play mini games. For example, they have this card-based mini game in Sabak, which is all right. And so yeah, there is a lot to do here. No doubt that, like with any Ubisoft game, you put your money down, you're going to get your bang for your buck. When it came to all of the side content, I did enjoy the Syndicate quest the most because it was the most removed from that backdrop of the Rebel Empire War and just felt more self-involved, self-contained, and I liked those stories a lot more. Nothing really wowed me in particular from what I played, but I enjoyed these more because it felt like I was exploring something that I don't oftentimes see in Star Wars media. Intel, on the other hand, is kind of cool. You get to kind of get these hints by talking to people around the world, and this will lead you to the greatest treasures you can find. Usually these are materials that are locked behind these pieces of content that let you get unique upgrades for your blaster, for your ship, for your speeder bike,
I'm not sure what to say.
I do wish the speeder bike had more mechanical flexibility. Like, you'll get chased by 6 enemies at once, and your only way of defending yourself is by using this adrenaline rush mode that pretty much lets you freeze time and lock on to certain targets and shoot them all at once. But since it takes forever to recharge, there's times where you use it and then more enemies will appear and start chasing you, and you're just kind of left to...
Wait, so you're not a Jedi, but you have some adrenaline rush power that you can freeze time? What the fuck? Wow, Kay is really the new Rey, isn't she?
Drive along, and that's really it. So yeah, I wish there was more there, but there is a decent amount of content here, and I could see people kind of having fun with it for what it is. But to me, as you've noticed for the entirety of this video, I think there's just a list of problems technically and creatively where if you bought this game on a deep sale, I think you'd be a lot more accepting of it. But if you're looking at this at like the $70 price point, I really feel like you're setting yourself up for disappointment. I know I feel things a little stronger in this case because I do love Star Wars, and so when it's not good, I'm going to come in a little extra hard here because I'm not happy with where the franchise is at and how certain aspects of it are being treated. I don't think Ubisoft phoned it in here, but I do feel like there were moments they could have done more. I don't know why the gameplay structure is the way it is, how you end up with a mostly stealth-focused game with very little stealth mechanics. I don't know how you end up with a game that embraces gunfights as often as this one does, with very little ways to navigate said gunfight because every pickup weapon is like just overheating or dropping and you're left with really nothing, or such a bad checkpoint system. It does feel like a couple more months in the oven could have at least ironed out some of these issues. But all in all, I have to say, Star Wars Outlaws made me mad. It really did, because I love this franchise, and I think when it's good, as I talked about earlier, I think it's real good.
Another couple of months. Maddie, don't forget, this game was done a year ago. It was completed. We were expecting this to come out at the end of last year, and they held it back because they had too many other games coming out during that time, and they wanted to schedule for a time when they didn't have anything else coming out so they could make money off it. This game has been finished for 10 months. 10 or 11 months. Just sitting there. People repeatedly telling them, based on what they're seeing, you guys need to work in this game more, and them saying no. No, we're not doing it. No, it's finished. No. Don't make excuses for this company, Mr. Maddie. Don't make excuses for them. This is the game they chose to put out. They had plenty of time to work on it more if they wanted to. Nope. They said this is what the paying public deserves. This piece of steaming dog shit of a game is what the paying public deserves, and they need to pay us extra, by the way. Yeah, not impressed at all. I'm not impressed at all.
And this feels like one of those games that's just going to support the idea that Star Wars and its best days are behind it. And even as a diehard fan myself, I'm starting to kind of feel that wavering of excitement for the franchise. It's like, yeah, it's not as bad as something like The Acolyte, but it's still not the greatness that I've come to know and love from this franchise with games I grew up with. I think of stories like Republic Commando. I think of Star Wars Battlefront. I think of Jedi Knight, Jedi Academy. Of course, I think of my beloved KOTOR 1 and 2. I think of these games and how they just represented the peak of Star Wars for me. I think of growing up with Episode 3 and how important that was. I know it's always been a bit of an up and down franchise, but I feel like I'm getting more low quality stuff than high quality stuff as of lately.
Definitely.
And this game just supports that. So, ladies and gentlemen, those are my thoughts on Star Wars Outlaws.
Thank you to Mr. Maddie at Mr. Maddie's Plays. I will link the original video down below in the description. Check out the other links down below to my other gaming channels, and as well as my Discord. Love to have you join up. Post all my stuff, all my videos on my Discord, as well as have other conversations there about what's going on in life, things I like. I share recipes for what I'm cooking lately. I talk about some sporting issues here and there. We talk a lot about I talk a lot about music because music's very important to me. What I'm listening to, what I'm purchasing, what albums I like, what bands I've discovered recently. I post a lot of videos and stuff there that had to do with gaming that I just don't feel like actually tackling on this channel. Just post the videos for other people to watch if they want. Links to other videos, so it's not my own. Yeah. And have a lot of fun over there. I like sharing my life with people and hope they get something out of it as well. Like, again, it's just a place where all my videos get posted, so you can just be there and see when I post something as well. Everybody, from Miss Valley Entertainment News, my name is Dredd. Thank you all for this. Drop down in the comments, please, and let me know. What are your impressions of Star Wars Outlaws? Have they changed for good or bad after watching this video, or you already have preconceived notions that aren't changing either way? Or are you just going to wait until, the game's been out for a while and kind of watch people play it and figure it out for yourself? Or are you just not interested at all? Or did you pre-order? Let me know what your thoughts are, and we'll get into a discussion, a good one about it, hopefully. Catch y'all next time, people. Bye-bye.